Okay, just two things to open up the discussion. You've got your media releases. First is 28,000 plus people came here on the weekend and had a great time. After talking to police and NZ Rugby, there were a few incidents. It was crowd were well behaved. They had a fantastic experience. The second point I want to make is that we as a venue have an expectation of our patrons to adhere to all of our conditions on the back of ticket. Why? Because firstly we want them to have a great experience here, but secondly, and as important, we want them to add to the experience for other patrons here. So just that as an opener, and I'm happy to take questions from the floor. You've got all the rest of the points in our release.
Terry, Ian from Radio New Zealand.
Yes.
Were you happy with the tackle, or do you defend what he did?
Oh look, let me step aside, just step the emotion aside. The reality of this is that we have an obligation to the players. There's a player safety issue here, and there's history that would tell you that safety is of paramount importance. So if I was to take the emotion of my decision out of this, it was one of, if we were all to speculate what that streaker would have done, I don't think any of us would have guessed what his next moves would have been. And you and I know that history again tells us that streakers evade any security guard bringing them under control, and so the course of action that he took was appropriate as per his brief, which would have been player safety and fast exit off of ground.
Brooke from TV3. Hey, so you say safety paramount. What about the safety of the people once they're inside the venue?
Yep, absolutely paramount. On his ticket, it's clear that if he jumps on field or anyone entering field, he's not only putting himself at risk, but he's putting others at risk, which is those players on the field.
What is the directive to security staff? I mean, what are they told to do in an event?
They've got to apprehend that and limit the potential of injury. You know, you can only go back to the 80s. I was at the Wacker when Terry Alderman, when there was a pitch invasion, and it finished his career. Now, you know, we can all speculate about what may or may not have happened and how bad and how good it looked. The reality is, he's in good condition. He never sought medical attention, and he's fine. That aside, we can't. That guard at that time can't speculate as to what the movements of that streaker would have been.
Adam, you talked to be, but apart from hiring these guys, what actually directive have you got in terms of how they go about apprehending what sort of?
There's a deployment plan. There's lots of training, and these guys actually moved around the country because it's a specific role. They had boots on. They do this as a job. So as a part of the deployment plan, we allocate those members around the ground to try and minimise any risk to players. And it could be a pitch invasion, it could be just abuse, it could be anything that they're jumping on the ground for. This happened to be a streaker, and the guys are trained to corral these guys and push them into a corner where we can exit them as quickly as possible. Now, what was unusual last night, or Saturday night, was the fact that he wasn't actually running, which was unusual. But for us to guess at the moment, and for the security guard to guess what his actions would have been, would he have sidestepped as soon as he saw him? Would he have run into another player in the melee? Would that have caused injury? Who knows? But the brief from him and the training these guys have had is to apprehend and get those offenders off the field as quickly as possible.
Given that he never turned around, and he wasn't running, do you think that in light of the tackle and we've all seen it, it was pretty sickening. Do you think that perhaps these security guards, the directive needs to change? That they need to be told that they can't just go out there and pummel people?
And there's no briefing on pummeling people. This is again back to safety. It's about apprehension. History tells you, if I was to go on YouTube today and pull down every incident of streaker, you will see that they are evading capture. So they will be running to do as much as they can to cause chaos. Now, just because this individual wasn't at the time, who's to know if the tackle was missed or he would have had a little more time, he would have set off again. I can't speculate.